And it's kind of complex. So if it doesn't sink in the first time, that's okay. You know, just be patient, just think about it, just let it absorb, because these are next level strategies. That's where we got our name, next level strategies, NLS investments. Brenda is a retired but still working educator. She has about 15 doors, 15 rental properties right now, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So she's a seasoned investor. She works as a mortgage loan originator doing residential and commercial loans. And she's partnering with me at NLS. And one of her houses burned down last week. So that everybody was safe, but it's kind of sometimes hard being a landlord when your house burns down, or your HVAC doesn't come on, or your pipes freeze in the winter. But so this is one of the reasons that it's good to adopt a bit of a diversification strategy. You don't have to have 15 doors to be a real estate investor. You can also hold mortgage notes or be a private money lender. There's many ways to play in this space. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Brenda.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm grateful for Cindy letting me be her partner. She is the one you're going to ask your self-directed IRA questions to at the end of the night. I've already been asked a few questions, and my answer was, well, I think I know. This is what I think I know, but check with Cindy. So she would be your self-directed IRA go-to person. And I want to talk to you tonight about mortgage note investing. And I'm the definition of a tired landlord. Are there any tired landlords in here? Any property managers? What's that like, property managing in the wintertime, especially?
Slow right now.
Not much happening?
It'll be crazy. It'll be crazy in about 2 months.
All right. Well, I had a busy week last week. Had a house burned down and a $9,000 HVAC replacement. So I am telling you from experience, it is tough to be a landlord, and you have these unexpected expenses out of nowhere that affect your nice little spreadsheet that you put together when you bought the property. So note investing is going to alleviate some of those unexpected expenses and headaches, because you're no longer going to own the property in the note investing space. You're going to own the note. So you can do this inside or outside of your self-directed IRA. So if you don't have a self-directed IRA, that's okay. It actually goes very well with self-directed IRAs because it's passive, pretty passive. Like, you're not going to be touching the property, which Cindy tells me you're not allowed to do if you have a self-directed IRA and you own property. Is that right? Can't touch it? Nope, can't touch it. So, but if you own the note, there's no need to touch it. So it's notes and self-directed IRAs are like peas and carrots, I guess. We have to give you a disclaimer that Brenda and Cindy do not provide investment advice or endorse any products. We are educators and are not making investment recommendations. And all information and materials are for educational purposes only, and all parties are encouraged to consult with their attorneys, accountants, and financial advisors before entering into any type of investment. And before I go on, I just want to thank you guys for being here. I love, love, love to teach. So just to see smiling faces, slightly older than the 9 and 10-year-olds I used to teach, I'm happy you're here. Thanks for being here. And we've already talked about me. Cindy is a real estate investor, scaling up her portfolio. She's got some midterm and short-term properties. And former public accountant, banking industry. She is great at structuring real estate deals and focuses on balancing risk with consumer needs. And she's pursuing campground, tiny home community development. And you were in commercial lending, is that right? In her past. So now she's working for herself. So yeah, there is no such thing as a safe investment. So there's no guarantee on anything ever, really. So questions before we begin. I want to ask you guys, what are some of your current investments? Are you invested in, Arlen?
I did do a PML
Ooh.
at the end of last year with a lady that I had met in in like Brookville, Virginia. But, so it's a older house and she's done many flips and so.
Okay, so some private money lending.
Yes, I did. So
Awesome.
12% interest. It is 6 months because it did need that kind of work.
All right, is your money,
Points up front, so. Send
wow,
money in, you know.
there you go. She were here a couple weeks ago, said, you told us to ask you what you had done.
I told you I was going to. Oh,
Yeah.
it's nothing done by the
And there you
summer.
go, you did good. She understood the assignment. She got her self-directed IRA working.
Yes, that's exactly how I did it.
That's right.
Myself.
Yeah, I love it. What is the length of your longest investment? Anybody in here had a long investment? Long term? Stocks, stock market?
I've got 3 years in a company that does real estate as part of the deal, so that's the longest I've ever been in, except in 3 years.
3 years investing?
Been in it longer, but that's currently
A business? Investing in a business?
there's real estate attached to it.
Okay. Has anybody put into mutual funds for a really long time? 401k? Oh, yeah. How long?
6 years maybe.
6? How long did you do?
Yeah.
25?
Too long.
How many? 35. So we got some long-term investors. So what is the current return you're receiving on your investment? Arlen already answered. I think she's got 12% and 3 points. Anybody beat that? Okay, we'll talk more about private money lending then. Let's talk a little bit about note investing first. What is a note? There's different kinds of notes. You recognize these. Money note, you write a note. That's a note if you write a check. It's called a note. And then there's a mortgage note, or there's a note for your car. It's a promise to pay. Promise to pay. So you have the terms of the agreement in your note, then you have an interest rate, a monthly principal, an amortization term, and then you sign it. So you've got a mortgage note and buyer. How many of you have been at a closing table and bought a property and you signed all those documents, you weren't sure what you were signing? Happened pretty quick. Everybody's just like stick it in front of you, you sign it and go. If you sat there and read it, you would never know. And you wonder how those title company people keep those papers straight, right? How do they put that back together, right? So you signed a note. You signed the mortgage note, a promissory note. So you have the buyer, and then you have a seller. And Michelle was telling me about they were the buyers talking to some sellers on some property. And we do that and understand that, right? And then in the middle, the buyer becomes the seller becomes the bank. That's not right. The seller becomes the bank. So the buyer can hold the note and the seller can sell the house and no longer own the house and become the bank. What about that stock market? Does it go up and down? Has anybody ridden it up and down? And round and round? How does that feel? You ever wake up and look and it's down? You just quit looking? What about you, Judy? Do you look at it or you just let it?
Almost every day.
And how does that feel when it goes back down?
I like it better when it goes up.
But we can all agree it goes up and down. So over the last 15 to 20 years, maybe your retirement account has felt like a roller coaster. In 2008, the market lost 37% in 1 year. Do you remember that? Anybody remember that? Yeah. This resulted in many people exiting retirement to re-enter the workforce. I would hate to think I was retiring then and depending on that, and then woke up and looked at my account and it wasn't there. And so you got to keep working. In 2020, the stock market lost 28%, and many wondered if a larger crash is coming. Do you think a larger crash might ever come again in the stock market?
Yes.
You think so? I don't know. I'm not in the stock market, but I don't know. I'm asking y'all because. So let's look at a few interesting charts and talk about it. This just goes to 2002, so it would be more now, but it's a seller financing, and you wouldn't think it that seller financing is such a large part of our economy and what's going on because we don't really talk about it that much, but it's happening. It's happening, and $22.5 billion volume in 2002. So we've got first position or wraps. This is what this is for first position. Loan balance 30,000 or greater. So it goes on. Top states for seller carryback or seller financing. And this is from 2002, so it's probably a little different now, but maybe not. So Texas is number one. A lot of seller financing going on in Texas. And Florida, look at that. So these states have got a lot of seller financing going on. Residential volume, mostly residential, but you've got some commercials, some land. If you want more of these charts, if you like charts, check out noteinvestor.com. Fantastic. The people that run that are fantastic. I can tell you more about that. But noteinvestor.com.
What seller financing is or seller carry?
It's owner financing. So if a seller is selling a house and you go straight to seller and you buy it from them on owner financing. Has anybody done that? So I've done that. It's not as difficult as it sounds, and it's scary. People are afraid to ask the seller, but why not? Say, hey, would you like to be the bank and take payments over time and get some interest to, or ask the seller and say, hey, I see you got a lot of repairs here. Owner finance it to me at this price. I'll take care of the repairs. I'll pay you, top price for it, or more than you're going to get from a wholesaler for this property if you'll owner finance it to me. And you could owner finance anything really, a car, a truck, a weed eater, a house. So it's been going on for a very long time, owner financing. Just for some reason, we don't talk about it much in real estate. There's nothing wrong with it. It's happening all the time. And ask your sellers, hey, you do some owner financing? You should lead with that if you're buying real estate. You want to do some owner financing? I'll talk to you more about that if you want. Again, noteinvestor.com, fantastic website. Got some more information here on residential, commercial land, and unknown, but they get this data from Advanced Seller Data Services. So residential is owner financed more than any other kind. Again, the stock market, 2008, 37%, 2020, 28%, 2022, 22%. Could have put you back in the workforce. Let's talk about owner financing for just a minute, and I think Arlen could really help us with this because she just did some financing as a private money lender. So suppose you did $25,000 at 10% interest for 230 months, and your payment is $241.26 a month. Anybody know how to do that on their calculator on their phone? Oh, I've got a math person in here. Ashley, right? Math? Okay. What's $25,000 at 10% interest, first of all, per month? Yeah, well, if it's interest only, the payment is $241.26, is that right?
Interest is $208.33.
Okay,
That's the total payment.
okay, so
241.
not amortized, but interest only.
It's only $208.33.
Is that 25,000 times 10% divided by 12?
I have a calculator that calculates it all for me.
Okay. To get the,
Amortization and everything.
yeah, well, if it was amortized, it would be a little bit of a different payment, but straight interest would be 25,000, 10%, and then divide that by 12. Maybe the math's not right up here. What is that times 230 months, Ashley? That's okay. You can use your number, my number.
Sorry, what were you asking?
How much is that for a month for 230 months?
Oh, the 208?
Yeah, just sure, 208. $47,000? It's okay if we round up and say $48,000. How does that sound for 20 years? 10% return, decent, secure by real estate. But is it going up and down or around, or is it just steady? I think that's the point of this. It's just pretty steady. Like it's steadily going up versus your real estate, versus your stock market up and down. It's pretty much steady going up over time. So with a note, you get paid once a month, and that includes your interest and your principal because you're the bank, unless you get interest only, in which case the principal is not being paid back. And we can talk about that. But you don't have to check every day to see where your money is doing, and your return is fixed. So what makes a good note? Because when you are going to be note investing, you need to know what's going to make a good note. First of all, what do you think would make a good note? Like, if you're going to invest in a mortgage note or buy a note, what do you think it's backed by? What is a note backed by? The collateral, which is what? A house. So if you're looking at a house and you're like, oh, that's a terrible looking house, would you want to buy that note? Or would you like a house in a nice little neighborhood? You know, you want to look at your collateral when you're investing in a note, Judy. Look at the collateral. You don't necessarily have to live in it, so don't think like that. Like a lot of note investors think, well, I wouldn't live in that. I don't want to invest in it. But you don't have to live in it. You just have to invest in it. So if it looks like it's a nice blue-collar neighborhood that's been taken care of, it's probably fine to back your investment. You ever been in the Google car? Do you guys know how to go on the Google car and drive around the neighborhood? Get in the car, drive around the neighborhood in the Google car. If it looks like a nice, solid, blue-collar neighborhood and the houses are decent, it's a pretty good backing for your investment. Another thing that backs your investment is your borrower. So what do you think makes a good borrower? I know you've been on the other side of the table and been the borrower, so what do they ask you about? Credit. What's your credit? What's your income? What's your employment? What are your reserves? You got some money in the bank? You know, you look at that borrower, and that is also what you want to look at when you're purchasing your note or creating your note. And then the loan to value, like when you're looking at a note, we're used to saying loan to value. Real estate investors, what does that mean? Loan to value on a property. Anybody? What does loan to value mean?
The percent of your loan versus what it's worth,
Right,
the percentage.
right. The percent of the loan versus what it's worth. So if you go to buy a primary residence and you put 20% down, then you've got an 80% loan to value. And I'm sure you've been told that whenever you go to get financing of some sort on a house. You got to have money down, and the loan to value matters, 80%, 75%. So a good note is going to have something different. It's called investment to value. How much money do you have in the note compared to the value of the property? Like, you're not the borrower if you're the note investor, you're the investor. So your investment is not necessarily loan to value, it's investment to value. And because notes are bought at a discount. Your good borrower has the ability to repay, stable income, a good credit score. Do you want them to have a decent down payment? Put a down payment? Why do you think they should put a down payment? Everybody's bobbing their head. Why should somebody put a down payment when they're buying something? Yes, you want them to have some skin in the game. So the more down payment, the more they're in it and to take care of it. And they don't want to lose their money, so they're going to take care of the asset. And seasoning, do you know what that might mean when it comes to a note?
You have to wait so long, like a period of time before you can.
That's right. That's right. When you're an investor, there's seasoning. So, like if you buy a house to flip, anybody ever done that? Yes. And if you have it for they want seasoning in it. Like the investor or the lender that's refinancing it might want you to hold it for 6 months before you refinance it, the seasoning. Well, and as the note investor, you're on the other side of the table, so you have to think about it like you want somebody to have paid on that note for a long time. That makes a better note, or it makes it a more valuable note. Because if somebody's been in a house and paying on it for 20 years, you think they're going to pay on it for the 21st year? They're not likely to stop paying. But if it's somebody new that just started paying on it, then it's not as solid. I'm not saying don't ever buy a note that's not seasoned, but it's just not as good of a deal, I guess. than a seasoned note.
What do you typically look for?
In seasoning,
How many years?
well, it depends. And you could just adjust your price. Like when you're buying a real estate property, because that's what you are as a real estate investor, you look at a property and you're like, okay, there's this wrong with it, that wrong with it, or I don't like this or I don't like that, so I'm going to adjust my offer. So when you're the note investor, there's nothing wrong with somebody that's only been paying for a year, but maybe you might give it a little haircut on your offer for the note, or the note isn't as valuable than somebody that's been paying on it for 10 years. You just cut your price a little bit. So if you want to get started in note investing, it's important that you know who you're dealing with, and you know, like and trust who you're dealing with when you're purchasing notes. So make sure that when you buy notes, you know who you're buying from, and that they are knowledgeable to talk to you about what they're selling you and can educate you on the note. You do want to get educated on this. This is a 3-part series, so, and I have a book I'm going to give you on the way out, and it's going to take a minute to sink in because you think about it differently. You think about it from the other side of the table, and you are the bank, and I can help you with that. We're going to talk about partials and notes, but not today, because I think that would be too much today. But we'll come back next month, and in 2 more months, we'll talk about partials, and that'll really blow your mind when we get into that. So I'm going to skip through that, just let you know that's coming. There's some YouTube videos here if you want that QR code. They're short. I'm not going to play them. They're little cartoons. They're only 6 minutes. Like if you can watch Instagram for an hour, flipping through the feed, you know, you can do 6 minutes on a note investing video. There's 5 or 6 of them there I've put for you to watch. They're fun. They educate you more on what's a note. Because if you're thinking, I don't know what she was talking about, go through those little videos. And they're set up that a 5th grader could understand it. So those are good. And if you can't grab that QR code, I'll be happy to text you the link. Let's talk about notes versus rentals. Anybody own a rental in here? Rentals. Inside IRAs or outside? Both. You've got a rental in your IRA?
I've been private money.
Private money lending out of your IRA? Yeah. Vernon, do you know people that own rentals inside their IRAs?
I don't.
No, you don't. Cindy, do you?
Talked a lot about it.
No. Do what?
I said I've heard you guys talk about it.
Yeah, I know people do, but I don't know anybody in here that does. But we understand rentals, so let's talk about that. Has anybody thought about getting into real estate, but you don't want to own a house because you don't want the headache of the toilets and the tenants and the burning it down and the HVAC and getting sued? And these things have happened to me. So, you know, when I tell you it's tough, it's because I've been there and done that. And when I first started, I never dreamed it would be like that. But you can avoid tenants and toilets with note investing. And if you're also thinking, well, I don't want to deal with the paperwork or I don't want to deal with these payments coming in and keeping track of that, and I would rather pull my toenails out than fill in numbers in a spreadsheet, no thank you. You don't have to. You can pay a servicer, and they'll take care of it for you. So you just hire the servicer to manage your note. You don't even have to really do that. You can if you want, but I would recommend using a servicer, and they'll keep it straight. And the servicer will be in between you and the borrower, so the borrower's not calling you directly with their whatever they need to tell you. They don't need to talk to you. They can call the servicer, and then the servicer can call you. So if you're buying a rental house, and let's say rent is $1,000, just for simple math, you take out property management at 10%. Does that sound right, Vernon?
Not for me.
How much is it?
Well, for just long-term rentals, it's 10.
Long-term rentals is 10? You're short-term, so more.
Yeah, it could be 25, 20, 25.
Yeah, well, yeah, because short-term rentals are more work. Yes, yes. So 10% on the management, you're not going to pay for the servicer. Your property is going to end up vacant. I think new investors make this mistake. They think it's always going to have a tenant in it. It's not always going to have a tenant in it. There's going to be a flip, there's going to be a drag, there's going to be a time it's vacant. You got to account for that. So let's say that's $50 a month, which is probably more than that. property taxes for $100, insurance $50, which went up 30% in the past year or so. So that number is going up. And maintenance, you hope it's only $100. So what are you cash flowing a month on that rental house? What, you know what cash flow is? Isn't that what we want? Cash flow? How much was cash flowing? 600? If nothing goes wrong. Okay, nothing goes wrong. And then if we buy a note on the house and the borrower pays $1,000, principal and interest, and there's no management, sorry, Vernon, the servicer is going to make $50. Okay, let's just say it's $50. There's no vacancy, there's no property taxes, there's no insurance, there's no maintenance. Cash flow is $950. Who's paying the property tax, insurance, and maintenance? The borrower, the buyer. Yeah, you're not paying that. So is it from a cash flow standpoint, which one do you like better? And I don't know about you, but anytime my HVAC ever went out, I never called the bank to come fix it. Try that and let me know how that goes for you. So what if they stop paying the note? That's the elephant in the room, right? Always the what if. Remember at the beginning we said nothing is a safe investment? So true. And we could all have our horror stories of investments that gone wrong in one way or another. But if you're in a decent investment to value on your note, not much can really go wrong, because if they quit paying, what are you going to do? What you going to do?
We had a deal like this 2 years ago. Wrote up for a condo downtown. Guy paid us $30,000, paid my real estate commission, paid everything. He had it for a year and a half, couldn't pay it. This is what we did. We just went back and got it.
That's right.
None of his money came back. It's all went.
That's right.
He made money and she made money.
That's right. You get it back.
That's the beauty of it.
So what's the headache in that? Well, you got to hire an attorney to handle the foreclosure, but you're going to get it back. You're either going to get the property back, or you're going to sell it at the courthouse steps and get your money back. So either way, you're secured by sticks and bricks, real estate. What about in the stock market? What happened? I'm not in the stock market, so I'm asking you, I don't know. What happens when your stocks go down? Like really down, like way down. Do they come back up? Sometimes. You have to wait. Does it ever just go away? Yes, it can. It can just go away. Your house that you've got as collateral is not going to go away. What if it burns down? Okay, as long as it's insured. So you want to make sure that you are additionally added to the insurance as lien holder. So you get a check if it burns, but you're good there. Let's say you had a home valued at $67,500 and you invested $36,144 for first lien position on the property. Does anybody not understand first lien? What that means? That means you're first. That means that you will get paid first in the event of a foreclosure. You have the first lien. When there's title search, you're the first person that gets paid when they sell. That secures your investment, your first lien. Sometimes you can do second lien, but that's another discussion for another day. So suppose you have this house, it's valued at about $68,000, you're invested at about $36,000. Ashley, let's round this to $67,000 value, and you're invested $36,000. What's your investment to value? The percentage. 30. Yeah, just do 36,000 divided by 67,000. 54%. You're 54% investment to value. So you're in a good position, because if you have to take the house back, you're going to get that equity back. Now, if you had invested $68,000 in it, you're not in a great investment to value position, because if you have to take it back, it's going to cost you money, because you're not going to have enough equity in it or enough skin in the deal or whatever to pay your fees for foreclosure. there are different types of note investors. You can be active or you can be passive. Same as with private money lending. You can be active and you can be passive. Same as with owning a property. You can be as active as you want or as passive as you want. If you have a short-term rental and you want to manage it yourself, you can be active. If you want to be passive, you can hire Vernon to manage just your short-term rental. And Cindy does that, right? Like you hire management for your short-term rental? She's got the best in town. She hired Vernon. So she's passive in her short-term rental. I have short-term rentals. I would say somewhat active, but I have a lady that helps me, and I pay her. Her name is Maria, and if she stops, I'm hiring Vernon. Because it's a lot of work. But anyway, notes are the same. You can be active or you can be passive. So active note investors have to go find the note. That's like active real estate investors. You ever shop for houses for them, Michelle? A realtor, those real estate investors. Are they annoying or what? Like always looking for houses and deals and wearing you out? So, yeah, there you go. So, you can be active note investor, like you look for houses, like you were talking about looking for houses earlier. You can do that with notes. There's ways to do that, and I can tell you what they are. And we can have a whole class on that if there's anybody interested in being a active note investor or to source the notes, you can go after them. There's ways to go after those the same as you go after a house. And you can review all the collateral files yourself, learn all about it. You're going to need to go get some education, spend some time and some money, a lot of time and money, getting the education to review all of those collateral files, and you verify the value. You do your due diligence, you pay the attorneys, servicer, you fund those investments, and then you receive the payments. So there are people that make full-time job out of this. They are full-time note investors. Or you can be passive, where you just sort of review it, you look at the collateral, you look at the files, you fund it, and you receive payments. And that's when you pretty much hire somebody like me to do all that work for you, and you're just getting a payment. It is super passive to be a passive note investor. Like if you're sick of it, like all of the everything else, and you're at that point, you really are just really tired of it, and you want to put on your flip-flops and head out, this is a great way to go. Passive note investing. We'll go into due diligence another time because I don't want your eyes to glaze over. It's a long conversation, and I don't want to lose you. But you would spend a great deal of time in those files before you would purchase those notes. You have the note, now what? You collect those payments via that third-party servicer. You pay taxes on interest earned each year, unless it's in a what, Cindy? Self-directed IRA, the powerhouse, right? Or an HSA, right?
It has to be self-directed still, yeah.
Self-directed HSA. You wouldn't pay taxes. Otherwise, you're going to pay taxes on that income. You can sell the remaining note to an active investor to repurpose capital. Did you know that you could sell notes? You can create notes and sell them. You can buy and hold them. You can buy a note and sell a part or a piece of it, like a slice of it. You can create a note and sell a part of it. You can create a note and pledge it or use it as collateral. So there's different things that you can do with your note once you have it in the note investing space. If the note goes bad and quits paying, you can work with the servicer, and the servicer will call the borrower, send letters, engage the attorney, and do the courthouse thing, all that stuff. And an attorney will do that, and they'll keep you compliant because, there's all kinds of rules and laws of what you can and can't do when people have their primary house. Like you can't be calling them or throwing them out. Sorry. There's a process that you got to go through. You just go through the process. It's not a big deal. You just go through each step. But there is a process to that, and the servicer would help with that. This is a big word there, hypothecate, and that just means to pledge the note. So you can have a nice note, and then you can have, let's say, Arlen has some money in her self-directed IRA that's just sort of sitting there, and she doesn't know what to do with it right now. You can borrow it from her, and the note can be the collateral. So a mortgage note can serve as collateral, same as a house. Like Arlen, would you loan money on a house for a short term? You did, didn't you? At 12% and 3 points, you said. Good girl. You can you can do that with a note as well. Like instead of it being the house, it's the note that you're using as collateral. And you can also sell a part of it to a passive investor. That's a partial that we're not going to talk about today. That's coming later. So here's some case studies on a note example. We have a value $200,000 and the balance is $90,000. Okay, Ashley. I know. The other students are going to be like, she's their favorite. Teacher's pet. What's the investment to value? If you have 90,000, no, that's LTV. Is if the note balance is 90 and the home value is 200, LTV is 45%. So home value 200,000, note balance. I'm going to change that. Let's say that instead of note balance, that says what you paid for it. So let's say the property is worth 200,000 and you paid 90 for it. What's investment to value? Or what's 90 divided by 200?
45.
Yeah, it's 45. So that's if we were talking about investment to value, that would be 45. This is not put up there right. I need to fix that. But on this note, the interest rate is 9%. You've got a P&I payment. Do you guys know what P&I stands for? Principal and interest. That'll be the lingo. Principal and interest. What about PITI or the PITI? Do you know what that stands for? It's important to know the difference. Yeah, don't get confused about that. When you're buying the note, talk about the P&I, not the PITI. You want to know what is the principal and interest payment. They've made 15 payments and they have 105 payments left. So total amount and monthly payments, Ashley, what is 1,140 times total amount payments? 15. 1,140 times 15. Yep, that's the 17 one. Yeah. I've got a calculator I will show you next week called the 10BII. We'll bust it out. Bring your iPhones. Okay, we'll pull it up on the screen and play with it and show them how to use it because it's different, isn't it? You got to learn. Yeah, but you got to learn it because it's a little different, but we'll get into that to talk about investment to value. So imagine receiving $1,140 for 10 years. What does that come out to? $136,809.60. And you know what? Do you like a spreadsheet? Anybody here like a good spreadsheet? You like a good spreadsheet? Love a good spreadsheet? If you put that in the spreadsheet, that's what it actually is. If you're a real estate investor and you're active at it, you know good and well when you put that in the spreadsheet, that's not what it's going to be. When you're doing a fix and flip, it doesn't work out on the dollar, does it? Ever? Did it ever? If it ever worked out on the dollar, I want you to tell me about it. But it never does. It's like, and that might drive some people crazy. Like some people, if they put something in a spreadsheet, then by gosh, that better be what it's going to be. And this is really great for those people. Engineer types. Note investors a lot of times are engineers. That's the truth. Because they love those spreadsheets. The numbers are what they say they are. You put them in, they come out. That's it. When you're an active real estate investor, fixing and flipping and buying and holding and short-term renting, and it's very messy. And it's not what you think it's going to be in the spreadsheet. But it is here with no headaches, no tenants, no toilets. All the while you got your flip-flops on, hanging out at the beach or whatever. You don't have to run dish towels over to your short-term rental. What about if you wholesale it? Has anybody in here ever wholesaled a deal? Yeah? What'd you make on your wholesale?
Not very much.
Well, come on, tell me, what was it?
I think a couple grand.
Couple grand.
It wasn't much.
Was it worth it?
We haven't done it since.
You never did it again. Didn't pick up that business model, right? I understand. I've wholesaled a few deals, and it is a lot more work than you think. Talk to some of the wholesalers, and bless their hearts, they seem so ragged. I mean, they just seem so tired. Do you know what I'm talking about? They just seem like, oh my gosh. I know. Well, us real estate investors think they get too much out of it, and they think they don't get enough because it's all just very hard. The whole game is hard. Finding the off-market deals, sourcing those leads, getting it under contract, accurately figuring out what is the repairs going to cost. Cindy and I struggle with that. We look at each other like, I don't know. What do you think this will cost to fix? I don't know. We don't know, and it's hard to do. Fix and flip. So that takes all of that out of there. But when you do note investing, it's not as exciting. Note investing is about as exciting as watching paint dry. It's just not sexy. I think that's why people don't talk about it very much versus fix and flip or being a landlord or I got 150 doors, and they're taking pictures in front of the Lamborghini or whatever they're doing. So note investing isn't like that. It's just very dry. But it is what it is. It doesn't go up and down. You don't have all the hassles of the fix and flip and wholesaling and all of that. This person on this slide wholesaled it and made $35,000 one time. That's a good wholesale deal. They're not usually like that. So call to action and we'll call it a night. Everyone, network with other people, investors, realtors, people. When you hear the word note, call me. Like if somebody says, I have a note, call me and we'll talk about it. More people than you realize owner finance things. So, or ask them, do you have mortgage notes? Would you like to sell your note? Do you have an event that you like some money and you like to sell a part of your note? I can help make that happen, and I can show you how that works too. So, get out there and talk to people. Realtors, watch for sale by owner. When you see for sale by owner, I want you to list the house, yes, but first I want you to ask them what? Will you seller finance this to me? Would you like to receive payments and be the bank? I can give you a better price than any wholesaler in town if you'll seller finance this to me. And have a conversation with them about it, and then if that doesn't work, list it. But give it a go, right? Large land plots get owner finance quite a bit because it's kind of hard to get money lending on land. I don't know if you knew that. Especially smaller lots, it's hard to get lending on land. Owners of land have notes secured by land, or they sell their land on notes. Talk to your burnout landlords. If you know any burnout landlords with a large portfolio, and they've been doing it, and I say this because I know how I feel. I can't imagine being a landlord with a large portfolio, and I have been doing that for 30 plus years. I can't imagine how they feel. Tell them to call me so we can talk about converting their portfolio into owner finance notes, and they will be so much happier. Not dealing with all the tenants and the toilets and letting it go. And you know what every investor wants? What does every investor want in the real estate space? Money, but what do we call that per month on our properties when we're looking to, what do we need them to do before we'll buy them? Cash flow. They're looking for that cash flow. So that landlord that's held those properties for 30 years and managed that monstrous portfolio is really wanting cash flow. So they can still get cash flow converting it to a note. They don't have to sell it at a discount. They just have to convert it to a note and get a passive payment. They just don't know it. I think they just don't know what they could do to get out of that hot seat they're in. And I'm telling you, they're in a hot seat. They're sick of it. And their spouse is sick of it. And everybody that listens to them complain about it are sick of it. So tell them to call me and we'll have a conversation. Wholesalers, if there's any in the room, but there's not because y'all said I ain't doing that. And we'll come back to this next. I'm gonna wrap it up with questions because it's long enough. And we've got 2 more sessions, and this could go on and on. And I'm gonna give you a book to read on the way out the door that I wrote for you on note investing. Do we have any questions? Yes, Michelle.
So is note investing virtually private money, or there are differences?
Well, if somebody owns a property and they sell it on owner financing, they've created a note. Boom, note is created. Was that private money? I mean, they own the property, there was money in the property, it was theirs, they created the note, so, I mean, I don't really know how to answer that, really.
I have a good example that I use to understand this.
Okay,
So, when you go to the bank to get a mortgage for your house, right? You have a mortgage that the bank holds as an asset. It's on their balance sheet. And so sometimes banks will need to raise capital, and so they'll sell their assets
Mhm.
to raise capital.
Mhm.
Okay, makes sense.
Note is an asset.
And the note is an asset, so, and they'll sell it in tranches and all that, but they will sell your mortgage that you owe 165,000 left, and you're paying 1,500 a month. They will sell that to someone else. And so the person that buys that, then you start paying them. So your payments don't change, nothing changes, just the.
Have you ever got that notice in the mail that said start making your payments to a different servicer? They sold the note. That's why. And so banks are doing that, selling their assets, which are their notes. And people do that, normal people. BJ could owner finance his house. He's taken off for, where are you going to retire to? Florida? He ain't going anywhere. He's having a baby, little baby. He's going to be here. But, in 20 years, he might go to Florida and sell his house. But he might want, instead of one lump sum, an income stream, payments. So, because he's probably thinking, gosh, I'd probably burn through all this if I got the big lump sum. Please just give me payments. So he could create a note. So if he did it right, and he called me and said, how do I do this, Brenda? How do I make this note worth the most money? Help me do this right. Then he could take that note on down the way if his son wanted to get married and he wanted to give him some money or whatever the event was that he needed money, he could sell a part of that note, or he could sell that entire note, because the note is an asset. Is that what you meant, Cindy? Yeah, banks do that. They sell off their notes, and BJ can sell his note. And he created that with private money if he paid for the house with his own money. But it's not like private money lending. A little different. Did that answer your question? I know. It's a lot to think about. Yeah,
So the tax on it, is it just on the income or is it
it's on the interest.
on the
Some
interest?
interest.
Now, here's the thing that tired landlords need to understand. I should hold a class for tired landlords. We probably pack the house, BJ. They probably all need crawl space repair, too. We'll talk about this later. This is a win-win. But when they own those properties, you know what they've done with that property on their taxes all these years? Depreciated them until how many years? They can't do it anymore. What's the year? 27 and a half. I know who knew. She doesn't like me to tell you how I know she knew, but I knew she knew. 27 and a half years, and then after that, they can't depreciate their taxes with it anymore, and they're like, well, I'm out of this. I don't want this anymore. I was only holding it for the tax angle, right? So they want to sell it. Well, if they sell it outright, what do they have to do? Recapture that depreciation. And so it's a painful taxable event, right, Cindy?
Yeah, you have to pay taxes on your gain when you sell it.
So it's capital gains tax,
Capital
and
gains
it's the
tax.
difference between purchase price and, or your original.
And I'm not a CPA, so I don't know how that's factored in when they have to recapture all the depreciation they did all those years.
I'm not in public accounting anymore, so I don't have to remember.
They have to recapture all that depreciation. Well, if they sell it on a note, like if BJ, well, he lived in it, so that'd be different. But an investor sold their house on a mortgage note, then they're going to pay taxes a little bit at a time each year on that asset as they're bringing in that monthly cash flow instead of all at once, which allows them to find other ways to offset their gain on their taxes each year. I know a good CPA they could talk to, Cindy. We should have Mark Perlberg up here on the QR code.
Shout out to Mark.
Yes, next month, or we're going to have Mark's face and stuff up here to call him and ask him CPA questions. But if you want more about note investing and you're like one of those people that likes to see a website and read through it, there you go. There's your QR code for that. Anybody? Okay. Got that? SquareOneNoteInvesting.com. That's my page. I've got a book for you to give you. I've got a paper copy if you like the paper books. You like to write in them like I do with pencils because I was born in 74 and I write in books and I write things paper and pencil. I've got that for you. But if you're like the tech goddess and you just do things with, that'd be Denise, and you just do things just with technology and you don't really need the book, there you go. That's a virtual book. PDF version. Anybody want that? There's a QR code. If you want to follow Cindy and I, because we teach about non-traditional ways to invest in your self-directed IRA. We just happen to be teaching note investing today. Next 2 months, we'll teach note investing. What did we teach before this?
Private money lending.
Private money lending. And Arlen came to our class, and look, she's making gains all the time.
I did the self-directed IRA on this too.
Yeah. I got to get Julie back in here. She was here one day. Shout out to Julie Gerdig. She was in here talking about her self-directed IRA and how she came out of the corporate world and started working her money like she knows to do and has really made some gains with her self-directed IRA. So there's lots of different ways to do that. If you want to reach Cindy and I, there's our emails. You can have our phone numbers and a QR code for our fancy website that our tech goddess set up for us. No, wait a minute. We did it ourselves.
Yeah, we're so tech savvy.
And upcoming, what are we going to teach in May, June, and July, Cindy?
I don't know. I think we're gonna do precious metals one at a time.
What do you guys want to learn about? What? Crawl space?
Well,
Can we?
you could teach that, BJ. There's a.
Yeah.
Do you want to teach about how to set up a self-directed IRA?
Okay, the ins and outs of how to get started, the mechanics of it.
Yep,
That's a good point.
let me write that down.
Especially
And why would you?
like I know that there's fancier word for it. I inherited it.
You inherited a self-directed IRA?
It's not self-directed though.
Can-
There's some special rules for inherited IRAs. Are you aware of those? Okay.
No.
Yeah, you're in the right place, though.
I haven't committed them to memory. I just know that there are special rules.
Yes, and we'll talk about, that's a good idea. Well, how do you set one up? And who wants to be a guinea pig, and we'll walk through the process and document it, and you can talk about it with us when we teach it. You got something you want to roll over to self-directed? There you go. Okay. And maybe we could do it together and just kind of document it along the way, what it was like for you, what it looked like. It's not that bad. It's not that scary. Did you rolled yours over, right, Arlen?
Yeah.
After you retired or resigned from your job?
Yeah. They resigned me, but
Yeah. Good.
Yes.
Congratulations. Because now you're doing your own thing.
Exactly.
So you rolled it. And what did you think of the process?
It was not hard at all. The only kind of issue that came up was with the company that helped my 401k because they didn't want to let go.
I had the same experience.
Conversation I was having with Cindy in the kitchen.
I had that same experience.
Issues. I went to
Maybe that's a
Equity
good
Trust
class.
for myself.
Mhm.
to do
Okay,
it.
that's what
Mhm.
I was just.
Yeah. No, they were great. They're great. It was the local.
Anybody that has your money does not want to release your money.
They will tell
They
you.
do not. And they're not going to make it easy. So how did you get through it? How'd you run the gauntlet?
I just hounded them, and then I actually had Owen from Equity Trust had to
That's who I had.
You're
get on to
okay.
just kind of
Persistent.
yes, persistent.
Okay. Are you guys
Yeah.
persistent in here? Like a dog with a bone? Can you be that way?
You can. When
You
it's
can?
that,
You-
It becomes like I'm digging in.
If somebody's got your money, yeah, I want it. Give it, roll it. Yeah.
Well, this is wrong. This doesn't make. You shouldn't do this.
Oh, I know.
Blah 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 blah.
I know.
Keep your money in a 401k.
Either. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause it's-
You're doing what you want.
Yeah. So it's doable, Michelle, and we'll talk about the mechanics of it and how, don't let it scare you. It's just getting through it like anything else. Just like, if you can flip a house, you can do this. You can do this.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And we'll just carry on with some super networking we got going on in this room.
What do you use for your note, for getting
So there's a couple of ways to get notes. Yeah, there's a couple of ways, and when we come back, I'll show you some websites. Next month,
Teaser.
keep them.
No, I said it's a good teaser.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm gonna
How's
show
that
you.
next one?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can't do it all tonight. It's late. It's cold. It was January. Everybody's wanting to go home. But you can buy them off of websites that I can share with you, and you can buy them from people by having conversations with them. Hey, you got a note? You want to sell your note? Let's talk about it. Everything starts with a conversation, so talk to them about it and call me and we'll help you negotiate a good price. And I buy notes from a company called Colonial Funding Group. Colonial Funding Group. They're in Dallas, and I work for this company in Note School. Eddie Speed is head visionary in charge there and running Colonial Funding Group. That company's been in operation for a very, very long time, and buy notes from them. There are other companies that you can buy notes for. You can get into, are you in some investor groups for real estate? You can get in investor groups for notes. Just the same way. It's out there. It's a whole network of people investing in notes. Just start getting in those groups and having conversations with those people, and I can point you in the direction of some of those. Probably put a slide up next time, maybe show some of those that you can get into. And you can buy notes from other note investors there sometimes. That answer your question? Yep.
So when you buy a note, you have to pay in full.
Yeah, you're not gonna finance the note.
So if it's $100,000 note, you gotta.
Yeah. But notes are bought at a discount too. That's important to understand. So if the borrower wrote a note for $100,000, you're not going to pay $100,000 for that note. So you've got to understand what would be a good offer on that note. They're bought at a discount. And then that's a conversation at another time. I'll pull up a example.
And that all goes back to the negotiation of where the house is, what condition it's in,
Yeah.
and all that stuff starts to play together.
Yes. So here's an example of one I bought. The original loan was in 2003. The original loan was $84,800. That was what the borrower paid for the property. And the current unpaid balance, the UPB is unpaid balance, was $41,157. That's what they still owed when I bought it. The P&I payment was, that's principal and interest, was $448. The note was written at a 6% rate. They had made 238 payments. They had 122 left. BPO is a broker price opinion, or what the value of the property was determined to be at that time, and you want to get a BPO or know the value of that property when you buy the note. And I bought the note at a discount for $34,450. So my investment to value at the time, we're not going to make Ashley work. She's getting tired, but that investment to value was 33%. So there was like a 70% spread in the deal. So I felt like it was a good deal. So I bought that note, and it paid me for a long time. It was a performing note. It was a reperforming note. They had quit paying, and then they were paying. It had a note and a mortgage. It had good equity. It had 20 years of seasoning. It was a perfect fit for my self-directed IRA. And I paid $750 for somebody else to do the due diligence for me because I didn't want to. I didn't have time to at the time. And anyway, I know how to do it. I just didn't have time. So if the price is $34,450, that was a yield of 9.85. And they paid off early. They didn't stay in it for 122 more payments. They paid me back early, which happens. People pay off their notes. So I bought that one from Colonial Funding Group. This one was from Colonial Funding Group. So does that answer your question?
So this goes back to the seasoning that you're talking about. So when you analyze these deals, that's why you'll want to have like a seasoned note because there's more equity built into that.
There's more equity, and think about human beings. If somebody has done something for over 20 years, what are the chances they're going to keep doing that?
Pretty high.
Yeah. They're pretty ingrained in this house, you know. And if you look at that house, I don't know that Judy and I would really want to call Michelle and say, find this house for me to live in as my residence. That might not be what we want to live in. But is it good for an investment? Yeah. It's a blue-collar neighborhood. These people are happy there. Well, clearly they are. They've been there a long time. Seem to be taking care of it. It's mowed. I would get my little Google cart and drive around, look and see, make sure the neighborhood looks pretty cool, you know, like I would feel safe living there. Would you let your kid live there for their first house? Sure. You know, those are the kinds of things you would ask. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go on. I've been studying note investing. I just woke up obsessed with it one day. I started studying it, and I've been studying it for years, and I love note school. But I like to learn. I always have to be learning something. Anybody else like that? I get up early in the morning so I can sit up and learn something new in the morning before my day starts. So anyway, if you like note investing and you want to learn more about it, if you scan that QR code, there's a class on February 5th that Note School is putting on, if you wanted to go to that. Check it out. When I started getting into it, I find it extremely interesting. And the more tired I get as a landlord, the more I love it. And now, why would I want like a 9% yield on a note instead of private money lending at a 10 or a 12% yield? Why do you think I would do that? Why would I choose to do that? A note, you just set it and forget it. You just do it one time and you're done, and you don't even think about it again. It's just like, paint's drying on the wall. If you're actively investing in any other way, whether it's private money lending or anything else, you're actively intending to it. You're digging in with it. You're paying attention. Your money's coming back. You got to redeploy it. When it comes back in 6 months, Arlen, what do you got to do? Got to find somebody else, another deal, and keep it going. Note investing, you don't. You know, you just set it and forget it. Anything else? Lights are going out on me. It's cue to quit. Yes.
The biggest thing that I'm taking away from all this is where all your time is spent and energy is all the due diligence up front to make sure that your investment is super solid.
You got it.
If you don't do that, then you might buy a bad deal.
That's right.
And then when you're like set it and forget it, well then
That's right.
that property is depreciated or something.
Yes, and it requires an education to really start investing in notes and understanding a note before you buy it. Don't just jump in it, understand what you're doing. Or you could like co-invest with me together or something and I'll do it and you don't have to do it.
Is
So.
that a service that you offer the due diligence on?
No, I don't do that like that. Like I would purchase a note and then if you wanted to be a note investor with me, then I would pledge the note and then you would get your return and then I would get a bigger return because I'm doing all the work on the front end. And I have paid a lot of money for my education and notes. And I've spent countless hours and I've traveled to Dallas and back I don't know how many times, just really digging into the topic. And if you want to be that person, please come along. It's so fun. You'll like it. But if you want to be just more passive, I can help you get into notes and you can be more passive in it. Does that make sense? And it's great for self-directed IRAs. Set it and forget it. Okay, let's start networking. Go meet somebody new that you don't know. I thought about doing everybody stand up and tell me about yourself, but then people say, I hate that. And I thought about a name tag, but that's so 5th grade. So just go around and meet somebody new. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here.